Welcome, everyone. You are listening to the 6th episode of Sanctuary's Coffee and Conversation. My name is Myrna Haskell. I'm executive editor of Sanctuary magazine. This is an online publication for women that empowers and inspires with a focus on women in the arts, women humanitarians, and business leaders who make a difference in their local or global communities, women's health and wellness, and a variety of other topics in travel, career, and finance. You can find us at sanctuary-magazine.com. This morning, my guest is Bette Ann Moskowitz. She is an award-winning author whose current book, Finishing Up on Aging and Ageism, is excerpted in the November issue of Sanctuary magazine. And she's also the creator of the very popular blog, Vinegar Mother. Welcome, Bette. It's great to see you today.
Hi, Myrna. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I love this. And I love your books. You know that I mean that truly from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, and you know, this month our theme is aging gracefully at Sanctuary. So this whole topic of cultural ageism and rocking it anyway is fabulous because it's a lot of what we're talking about, you know, how to stay healthy, how to stay involved, how to keep your kick, you know, as you go into the elder years. So thank you so much for talking about this important subject. And I wanted to start out though by asking you about a phrase that I believe you coined, the term, the cultural cage of ageism. So can you talk about that a bit and let us know how you've weaved that throughout the book?
I actually wrote the phrase cultural cage in a novel that I was writing, and I gave it was in the words of an older character in my novel, and her granddaughter said, "How come, Grandma, we never understood," whatever it was, I don't remember. And my character said to her, "Honey, we're living in a cultural cage." And I thought to myself, wow, boy, isn't that the truth? And I almost felt as if the character had given it to me, but I'm giving it to you. Cultural cage means, you want me to tell you?
Yes, I'd love for you to tell me.
Okay. To me, the cultural cage is one of those things that we live that we never think about. The example that I gave in the book was suffrage. Before women had the vote, it was absolutely a given that women didn't vote. Right. And this was part of our culture. And even in smaller things, in the way we live our daily lives, if you were born at a certain time, you were a breastfed baby. A little bit later, you became a bottle-fed baby because suddenly the culture changed.
Right.
So essentially and I was just thinking, you know something? Right now, we're experiencing something in gender that feels to me like another bar of the cultural cage. All of a sudden, I'm hearing people say, "Don't refer to me. Gender is not binary, not male or female."
I know. That's tough for an editor. I can tell you that's tough for an editor, particularly with a more midlife audience.
Right.
A lot of people haven't heard those terms yet.
Yes. And refer to me as they or them.
Yeah, I hear you, Bette. Yeah. What about this idea that, and I think it comes from the youth culture a lot, probably particularly in America even, that, you know, our elderly are, you know, they're used up, they can't contribute anymore. I wanted you to talk a little bit about that whole idea and perspective, and also if you think that elderly folks themselves contribute to it because of their self-perception.
Well, first of all, we are used up. I mean, look at us. I mean, our eyesight
especially today, I'm like this today, Bette.
Yeah. Our eyesight is failing. Our hearing is not so great.
Yeah.
And all the ordinary things about aging are true. Our bones have had stress on them for many, many years. And if we play tennis, I'm so glad I'm a couch potato because my knees don't bother me. I never played tennis.
Yeah.
But so in a sense, it's all true. And our brains are stuffed with memories and stresses and and experiences and all sorts of things. Where it becomes, when it goes from age to ageism, is when this is the expectation. The expectation that we're losing it is absolutely there, and that's what old age means. Sorry.
The expectation. Yeah, yes. I hear you, Betty. The expectation that,
Yeah.
So what about though perception of self too? Do you know what I mean? Because I read the book, and a lot of this is about too older people feeling like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Are you kidding? Or oh, they're gonna think this of me because I look terrible. This whole idea of elderly people themselves projecting that, maybe unwittingly, but because they're feeling that way deep down inside, and they're not sort of celebrating what they still have and all those fabulous years they can share with everybody, and all their wisdom and their knowledge. Right?
I think the perception, I think self-perception is part of it. And I think that's part of the cultural cage. Because remember, we were raised in this culture, which means that we've come to expect, we felt that way about our elders. And so we come to expect the casual disrespect or the casual sense of our diminishment that we hear. Take the simplest thing, Myrna. You sit down in the diner, and God, my late husband, I remember this so well. The busboy came by, and my husband knocked over a glass of water by mistake. And the busboy was so patronizing. Oh, Pop, he said. Oh, Papa. Oh, buddy. I mean, he had so many old person names for him. And my husband was mortified. And of course, men don't act like they're mortified. So he sort of sucked it up.
Yeah. Oh, that's
But
terrible.
I never forgot it. It was more humiliating than it would have been if he'd said, that's okay, accidents happen.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And that whole idea too with, oh, honey, and it's almost like people start talking to the elderly as if they're a baby or a little toddler, and they're not. I mean, here's a person who's lived through all of these decades and has all of this life experience and lifelong wisdom. We have to, other cultures celebrate that more, I think, and respect that more than we do.
I think they do, but I think it's changed too. Even I remember talking at some class of young people that I was talking to about one of my books, and we were talking about aging, and I mentioned the fact that particularly in China, the perception is that they revere their elders. And this young Chinese student came up to me after class, and he said, that's changed quite a lot. It's still the same maybe in rural areas, but in big cities, things have changed there too.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just see that it's, and I think I've done it too. So, this like talking down to, or even, if somebody's hard of hearing, how you talk to them that way.
Oh,
and,
yes.
So it's tough. It's tough. But I think in general, we all need to step back, including those of us who are over 80, and say to ourselves, you know what? We're all in this together. And, everybody's got to say, I'm still rocking it. Right.
Well, what the fact of the matter is, I always say, you have to remember something. If you don't get old, you're going to be dead. You're all going to get there.
Yeah, everybody's going to get there. So be careful.
And if you don't get there, that means you're dead.
Yeah, that's right. That's a good point. Let me ask you about this one chapter, Betty, because I think this one's a really important one. So, hello, Grandma. So this is about the scams, the money scams, and people who target in particular the senior community. I think it's really a form of elder abuse, right?
It is.
I mean,
Yeah.
and in this particular chapter, you talk about a personal experience and you fought back, and that's great. But I want to talk a little bit more about, what can we do as a society to help out with this? Because this is a huge problem. Scams through the mail, hacking, these phone call scams, all of this. And it's like, there's this like wealth of like underground that deliberately target the elderly community. So can we talk just a bit about that?
Well, I did a little bit of research after the third time that I was targeted. And what I found was that although there is an understanding that this is happening and that there is some kind of an initiative to do something about it, the initiative right now has most to do with making it public, telling older people to just hang up. Don't ever say yes to anything because they can cut that response out of the rest of your, the recording and use it.
Yeah.
Just hang up. However, what surprised me was that an advertisement online said, call us and report it. And when I called to report it, they didn't want to hear what I had to say. They said, yeah, we know, just hang up. And I said, no, but wait, I got the guy on the line. I got the telephone number for you. And they said, no, we're not interested. They changed the number.
Right? I mean, how silly.
Yeah.
Here it's like you're doing your own thing. You're doing a public service to stop this guy.
But of course, the assumption is, I mean, if you think about criminal activity, and if you think about it in the context of the rest of the population, would you ever catch a cop or a DA or somebody in law enforcement saying, oh, no, we're not going to chase him. The crook's too good for us, which is exactly what they were saying. Oh, they changed their numbers too quickly and they're on their way. Well, help. But that's ageism. I think that's ageism. The fact that they're not paying that.
I agree. I want to talk a little bit about your writing style, and which I love. I've read several of your books. I'll talk about that at the end, a couple of the other books, but I just really want to implore people to go out and read anything Bette has written. But I found this on your website. And you say, I have always worked in the channel between tragedy and comedy. What's funny at the funeral? What's sad at the circus? And I know that you do this in both your nonfiction and your fiction. And I just want to talk about that particular writing style. And if you feel that that helps people to dig in more with topics that they might otherwise feel uncomfortable talking about.
Absolutely. As a writer, I am aware that if I look at the dark side, my challenge is to the reader to join me, to partner, which is all about what I do anyway. It's a way of making connections. And I know that in order for somebody to listen to hard stuff, there has to be some kind of a payoff. And that payoff is a laugh every now and then, or an ironic way of looking at it. But as a human being, it goes deeper because I'm aware. I mean, if you don't have a sense of humor, nobody can. It's like saying be tall to a short person. They can't do it.
Yeah.
So I feel as though I'm lucky as a human being to have that ability, and I got it from my folks, I guess. And I use it in my writing.
And I love it. And you are so right. I think that putting a little bit of laughter and comedy into situations that are otherwise like people just have this like deep down angst about, it's almost like it's the same kind of thing as when you can give somebody a hug, right? Hugs and laughter. If we don't have hugs and we don't have laughter, we really can't get through this thing called life, right? Because there's tragedy. There's a lot of tragedy and a lot of angst and a lot of disappointment in life. And those are the things that sort of lift us, right?
Yeah. I mean, think about the last time you were at a wake, or I just lost my husband recently.
I know.
And we had Shiva. There were people laughing at that. It was kind of like a party part of the time.
Right. But
And
you're celebrating
you're
too,
celebrating,
right?
you're absolutely. But the thing is that I don't think I spend any day, miserable as though I might be, I don't spend a day without laughing once or twice. And I don't mean to, I just find something to laugh at. Probably my dog.
And Pete, your dog Pete. And listen though, Betty, there's been a lot of studies that have shown that people who laugh, people who hug live longer.
Yeah.
So there's actually studies done on this too. So it's
Do
very,
you know
very
that
important.
there's something called laughter yoga?
That I don't know about. Please tell our
Oh,
audience.
I was browsing online and I saw this and I called the guy, and he turned out to be a laughter yogi, and he did this for groups. And eventually, the Ulster County Office for Aging, I recommended him, and he was doing courses there every Live, Laugh, and Learn summer. They would do a day of senior courses, and he was doing laughter yoga, and people would come out of there flushed and feeling good. And
Ah, that's
so,
great.
yeah,
That is
yeah.
great. People should Google that.
Oh
See what
yeah,
they can find. I haven't
yeah,
heard that one, but
yeah,
I believe it though. I believe it to be true that it sort of just lets all of that out of
yeah,
your body, right?
yeah,
And
sure.
look at what we're going through today. And with
I know.
cases of COVID spiking again,
Yeah,
right? We
yeah,
have to have that in our lives. So important.
yeah, I know.
So, since you are such a wealth of knowledge on this subject, Betty, and you do so much, I think, for other people through your writing, do you have a piece of advice maybe you want to give for our listeners who are over, say, 70?
I read it somewhere, so it's not me, but it sounded like good advice, and that was the trick to aging gracefully is compromise. Understanding that there are things you probably never do again. You're not going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, but the things that you can do, do.
Yeah.
Make connections, especially make connections. Reach out.
And we didn't talk about that social piece, right? But that's another thing. And so for folks who have problems, say really severe arthritis, or they've had a stroke and they're more immobile, or something like that, where they're just not able to be out and about as much. Those social connections, or even just going out in the backyard or on the deck and having tea with a friend or something, is
Absolutely.
huge, right?
It's huge. It is huge. Yep. I know, I'm sure that you've experienced it. Most of us have, that we have driveway visits during the summer. We had driveway visits and
Right.
distancing, and it was crucial. It's been crucial for all of us. I
Yeah,
have
and even for
cocktails
people,
with
yeah.
I have cocktails with friends over FaceTime.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
great. Because
yeah,
even though it's not in person, but you can see their face. And so there's a little bit more of that
absolutely.
feel,
Abs-
that interaction, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just knowing that people are out there caring about you, you can laugh together and joke together and talk about any problems or anxieties you have and get information from each other. That's really, really important. And I feel so badly right now for the community of people who are at really high risk right now, because they are even more isolated than normal. And so I think that's where family members can kind of step in and sort of figure out ways that
Yeah.
they can keep that
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
happiness and socialization and everything there, even though due to the pandemic, many are
And,
forced to
and Myrna,
isolate right now.
I must say that in that particular case, your elders are always more knowing than anybody else how important family is. So to look to your elders for advice or is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. I want to ask you this though now, because a little birdie told me that you had a new book in the works, and I think you're diving into fiction again, which I'm sure you're really excited about. So can you give us a little sneak peek or tell us a little
I
something about
will
that?
tell you. My new book, my novel, is going to be published by D.O. Press, the people who published Aging and Ageism. And the title is Decoding Strategies, and it's about a middle-aged reading teacher who is falling apart. She's having a total meltdown, both emotionally, in her personal life, and as a teacher. And it's also, I think it's a mystery about the power of language. And she always says, as a reading teacher, decoding, you can decode anything if you know how to read. And in her own life, she has been able to hide with words all the realities that she doesn't want to face. So it's
Ah.
a kind of a mystery of how she discovers or faces the things that she's got to face.
Oh, well, I can't. Well, when can we hope to maybe see that on the shelves?
I think probably 2021, sometime in maybe June or July.
And you'll let Sanctuary know.
I will let Sanctuary know.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's great. Well, before I close with you, Betty, I just want to let listeners know Finishing Up isn't the only one of your books that I've read. I read Do I Know You? I actually shared that with my mom when she was recovering from a stroke. A fabulous book. And also The Room at the End of the Hall. Both of those were literary award winners. And I also read your blog, which comes out every Monday, Vinegar Mother. And the one that was just out on Monday, I just want to read the first paragraph, if you'll bear with me here. Quote, "My storytelling mind is losing it. I am in a deep dive imagination-wise, and the numbing boredom, which alternates with numbing anxiety, has got me thinking about TV commercials again." So just that paragraph, you want to read the rest and find out what Betty has to say. Thank you, Betty, because you know what, your writing style really uplifts, and that's good for everybody. I don't care if you're 2 or 102. As we talked about earlier, laughter and just sharing perspectives, and what writers can do to improve improve like your whole mood is really, really amazing. So thanks for what you do, and thanks for being with me
Oh,
today.
thank you, Myrna.
I've been
It was
dying to
fun.
have you. This is
Thank
our
you.
6th episode, and I'm hoping you might join us again, and we'll
Thank
wait to
you.
hear
Good.
about the new book.
That
So
was
thank you
fun.
so much.
Bye.
So I want to end, as I always do, though, by wishing all of our listeners and our readers good health, happiness, and continued inspiration.